All right, ladies and gentlemen. So in today's video, we get the glorious opportunity to talk about Ghost of Antifa again. Now, the reason why we are talking about Ghost of Antifa is because some new news have come out that apparently, according to authority sources, Ghost of Antifa was the #4 best-selling game in the United States for September. Now, obviously, every time we go through these numbers, the typical people come out, right? The typical people who, for some reason, are like shadowboxing Grums and Smash JT and all those guys. The same people who said literally the same exact thing for all the video games that have failed over the last year plus. Dragon Age Veilguard failed. FBC Firebreak failed. All these games that they called you grifters for asking questions and acknowledging certain things that just don't make any sense. The moment you do that, the moment you ask any questions, you're not allowed to do that, by the way. The moment you do that, you're a grifter, you're this, you're that, whatever. So here we are. We got a post from Genki. Shout out to Genki. I don't have any hate for Genki or anything. I'm just using their post. Ghost of Antifa was the #4 best-selling game in the US for September. Sales were basically in line with Ghost of Tsushima. Now, I love that they utilize certain terminology that make it seem as if it is similar to the game that everybody actually cares about, but they don't actually tell you exactly where it falls. And this is why I will always question the narrative, right? Whether I'm right or wrong, I'm always willing to admit it. But the truth is that, and I've admitted it before, by the way, not often, but I've admitted it before. It's not my fault. You guys keep failing. But this particular situation has a lot of suspicious things that I want to go over in this video. I'm also going to bring up the Famitsu numbers because we have an update on how the game is performing in Japan. By the way, a spoiler alert, it's terrible. But we are going to go over all of this right now. So Ghost of Antifa, #4, okay? Who is #1? Borderlands 4. That's obvious. You can tell by the sales. The game obviously did sell fairly decent. But Borderlands 4 is in a very similar situation. Borderlands 4 is experiencing degradation of franchise, right? Something I talk about in many videos. Just like Ghost of Yotei is slowly experiencing the same exact thing. They're in the same boat. Borderlands 4 sold half of what Borderlands 3 sold. Ghost of Yotei sold half of what Tsushima did. They try to convince you that it sold the same, but I'm going to explain why I don't believe that. If you look at this list, Borderlands 4, NBA 2K26, EA Sports FC 26, Ghost of Antifa, Madden NFL 26, and Helldivers 2 and Silent Hill F. Okay? Helldivers 2 is on this list. Guys, I want you guys to understand something. This list is purposely vague in a multitude of different ways for a reason. Okay? #1, this list is as useless as the Steam top seller list. The reason why I never go by the Steam top seller list is because if you guys don't know this information, I'm going to explain this to you. Steam's top seller list does not go by copies sold. Steam's top seller list goes by revenue, dollar amount. So AAA games automatically have an advantage over non-AAA games that are not asking for the same price, right? So because Ghost of Antifa is like a $70 game and has like an Ultimate Edition, it's probably like $100 or whatever. That immediately puts it way up there, that it doesn't have to sell nowhere near the same amount of copies in order to reach a higher point on the top, right? Now, obviously, revenue is still an important number, and we can talk about that because this game definitely made its money back, in my opinion, right? This game definitely, if it hasn't, it's going to. No doubt about it, it's going to break even. But the thing is, it's a difference between breaking even and barely getting by versus Ghost of Tsushima that blew the fucking budget out the water within the first, 48 hours. There's a very big difference between that. And this is degradation of franchise. Now, the games are obviously more expensive, #1. #2, this is a revenue sheet, right? This is a revenue sheet, so it goes by dollar amount. Now, why do I find this to be very sus? Because Helldivers 2 is #5, right? They don't tell you how much the difference is. They don't tell you that Ghost of Yotei is #4 by XYZ dollars. All they do is tell you Ghost of Yotei is #4. The reason why they do this is because if they show you the difference, then people will realize just how bad things are. I'm going to use small numbers as an example, okay? Let's say Ghost of Antifa made $1 million in revenue. Obviously, it made way more than that, but I'm using small numbers so that you guys can follow along in the video. Helldivers 2, let's say Helldivers 2 made $980,000 in revenue, and Ghost of Antifa made $1 million. How would that look in comparison to saying Helldivers 2 is #6 and Ghost of Antifa is #4? Obviously, it looks a lot better if you take the number away and you only put it on a chart. This is one of the reasons why they do this, is because it makes the games look better. It makes it a lot simplistic for people so they don't have to understand the revenue and all the numbers and everything like that. But obviously, if you knew the real numbers, you would realize just how close these games are to each other. And this is not as good as it probably looks. Also, keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, that Ghosts of Yotei is a new released game, and Helldivers 2 has been out forever. And yet Helldivers 2 is only 2 slots behind Ghosts of Antifa. Does anybody else think that's highly suspicious? Not only that, Helldivers 2, if you guys are not aware, is a cheaper game by a large margin, $39.99. It's a $39.99 game, whereas Ghosts of Antifa is a $70 game at standard price. So you have a game that is worth way more money that has to sell less copies in order to get a higher ranking on the list. Whereas this game is cheaper, so it's got to sell more copies to get a higher ranking on the list. This is how these revenue lists work. And this is why I don't believe any of these things, right? So this is the number for September, okay? And it's purposely curated to make it look better. Not only that, you also have lack of information, right? So if you guys are not aware, you have Nintendo digital sales that are not given to this company, right? Circana does not have access to the digital sales for Nintendo. They tell you this in very small font at the bottom with the asterisk next to all the Nintendo games. They tell you digital sales are not included for the marked titles, which is digital sales on Nintendo platforms. So these games could be much higher than this, but because they don't have that information, guess where Ghost of Antifa gets to go? Higher up, right? So all of this is meant to be curated as a means to push the numbers without actually giving you the numbers. One thing that is very blatantly missing from this list is how many copies sold. Where are the copies? Where are the numbers? Nowhere. And the reason why they do this, all of this, is so that people, right? People like this, again, it's no offense to Genki, I don't hate the guy or whatever, just using his post as an example. All these people can take this and then they could say, this is a top-selling game. Oh, the grifters were wrong, right? They start attacking everybody and start calling people grifters, this, that, and the third, right? I'll give you a prime example. This person, Oliver Darko, says boycott failure. And just like that, Grum, Smash JT, and Asmongold look for their next target. I don't know why Asmongold is in there, considering he bought the game and played the game. But again, these people shadow box the idea of what you are. They fight you on Twitter, even though they don't actually know what you are. They fight what they perceive you to be. So they're throwing Asmongold in there just because he's considered to be the right-wing chud leader. And that's why they do that. Now, again, boycott failure. Where is the boycott failure? How do you know that? How are you speaking with all your chest and saying boycott failure? Not only that, guys, I want you to understand, at least from my perspective anyway, I've always said for the longest time this game was going to make money. I don't know who was boycotting the game outside of maybe Grumps. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't maybe Smash JT too. I don't really know, to be honest with you, but I know maybe Grumps was. But at the end of the day, this game was always going to make money. It is hard not to make money off of the back of a more successful game, even if the game is worse to a lot of people. I'll give you a prime example. Borderlands 3 made insane money off of the back of the more appreciated and the more liked Borderlands 2. Meanwhile, Borderlands 3 is one of the most hated video games in the Borderlands franchise, aside from Tiny Tina. That's not to say that there are some people that don't like Borderlands 3. But look what happened. Borderlands 3 was so hated that Borderlands 4 now sold half of what Borderlands 3 did, because we have a degradation of franchise going on here where people are checking out for some reason. What that reason is, who really knows at this point? But there is a reason for that, right? So you believe what you want to believe. Now, we have another post here, ironically, from Smash JT, going over a post from Colin Moriarty. Now, Colin Moriarty, whatever, bro. Like, one day he's a shill, one day he's anti-fucking whatever. Like he could be what he wants to believe. What he wants to be, but what he's saying here is a prime example of what it means to be retarded, what it means to take information at face value, and what it means to try to be the authority when you have no actual information to be the authority. When we talk about numbers, we're just theory crafting, right? I'm asking questions. I'm asking questions that nobody wants to give answers to. All they do is say, well, Circana said it's number 4 in September with no numbers and no anything. So that's it. That's it. That's what it is. It's a hit. They have no information, no nothing, no proof, nada, but they'll talk as if they have all of that. So Colin Moriarty says the following: I'm happy for Sucker Punch that Ghost of Yotei is a certified commercial hit. Again, nobody was ever arguing whether or not it's going to make its money back. It's definitely not making nowhere near as much money as the first game did. I don't give a fuck what these people say. And the game is more expensive, unironically, right? Their budget's also higher, although they're being vague with that too. They said our budget is close to Tsushima, right? They'll say something like that, where Tsushima had like a $60, $70 million budget. But what does close mean? 90, 100, 110 with marketing, 120? Like, what does close mean? They don't want to tell you. They never want to tell you, but they'll speak as if they're telling you, which is wild to me. It's already the 18th best-selling game in the US for the entire year after only 3 days of sales were counted. Great sign. Guys, there's barely any AAA games that have sold like in large numbers. Barely any of them this year. And the AAA games that have sold gangbusters are few and far between. So if you're on a list of top 20 and you're number 18 and you cost the most, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, how is that a success? How are you praising that? This is a sequel to one of the number one games on the PlayStation platform and on other platforms too. How are you then celebrating number 18 on a list of top 20? How are you celebrating that? I don't get that. Then he says it's a huge step up from Tsushima, a classic sequel, really recommended. I'm not surprised. Listen, I don't know if this guy is a Sony boy. I really don't know, and I don't care. All I know is that this comment right here is completely bullshit, because this is coming from a place where he's trying to make it seem as if he is speaking from authority. I really don't know. And again, I'm not going against his credentials, but what I'm saying is, like, bro, if you're going to speak like this, have some real numbers to back it up. Don't have a trust me, bro, from Circana that is purposely not releasing the numbers. You don't have units sold. You don't even have revenue. The list is based off revenue, and you don't even have that. All you have is a number on the list, because you know why they don't give revenue. If you give revenue, what's going to happen is you got to take the revenue, you divide it by the average price of the game, and you're going to find out how many copies it sold, right? This is the reason why they don't give revenue. They don't want people theory crafting. They don't want people asking questions. They don't want people talking about this. Bend the knee and accept the information we give you. Suck the Sony dick immediately with fervor, or just get out, you grifter. That's basically it. So Smash JT said the following. Of course, Smash JT got to pick fights on X. This is something I don't do. I don't even bother, because these people are never going to speak in good faith. I already know that. I was going to say we already know that, but I don't think Smash knows that. I think he thinks highly of people, unfortunately, and I just think people are shit. Smash JT says the following. Oh, wow. I was unaware that this was officially a certified hit. You forgot to point to people to the official statement by Sony or Sucker Punch. That's because it doesn't actually exist, which I agree with. It doesn't exist. So what's going on here? And then he ends up linking a post about every Twitter clown out here parroting Ghost of Yotei was a number 4 best-selling game in the U.S. In September needs to calm down. According to Matt's spreadsheet and Circana's estimates, sales were supposedly in line with Ghost of Tsushima. This is the same group that recently claimed Assassin's Creed Shadows was the best-selling game in the U.S. So take his numbers with a massive grain of salt. That is true. He did say that Assassin's Creed Shadows was the number 2, not the number 1, the number 2 best-selling game in the United States of America, behind the fuck is that game called from Capcom? Monster Hunter Wilds. Behind Monster Hunter Wilds. So he tried to claim that Assassin's Creed Shadows was the number 2 best-selling game behind Monster Hunter Wilds. That is the amount of cope that he tried to tell you, the person who's from Circana. And they're all using Circana's numbers because they're trying to make Circana the authority on numbers. They don't want the grifters to be the authority. They want Circana to be the authority with no information whatsoever to back that up. No hard data, no official statements from Sony or Sucker Punch, no confirmation anywhere, just PR-fed talking points being passed off as a fact. There is no way this game is actually keeping pace with Tsushima. If you genuinely believe that, you're being misled. And for context, Circana's lead analyst, Matt Piscatella, has a long record of being very friendly towards major publishers and echoing their narratives. Doesn't mean he's lying, but it definitely means his analysis deserves extra scrutiny. I agree. Piscatella is somebody who the industry is going to and providing numbers to. That means that they know that the narrative is going to reach the consumers in the best light possible for the studios. Otherwise, guess what? They would not be giving him the information, right? If they were giving him the information, that means he's already been vetted. He's already been confirmed to be a good little boy. And he's going to say exactly what they want him to say. And that goes for every studio and every company that he gets numbers from, except for Japan, because guess what? Japan makes their numbers available without shilling. You could go to Famitsu right now and see all the sales for everything in Japan. But in the US, you got to be a good little ball sucker in order to get that information. So now, what did Colin say? Colin decided to do the prototypical response. Perhaps you didn't learn this yet, covering the Alyssa Mercante beat. Bro, how are you unironically mentioning Alyssa Mercante almost at the end of the year 2025 is beyond me, bro. You clearly, again, this is what I mean by shadow boxing the perception of your enemy. You're bringing up Alyssa Mercante, bro, when Smash JT has had beefs with like so many other people that are way more relevant right now, and you're choosing to bring up Alyssa. But okay, I guess. He says Berserkana relays US sales data directly from the publishers to the exact dollar. So if they have the exact dollar, why did they not provide the dollar? Does anybody have an answer for that? We all know the answer for that, because they don't want to give it. They don't want to provide it. If they have the direct dollar amount, it should be very easy to provide it. Just like Famitsu. Famitsu provides it. Famitsu literally provides it. Tells you exactly the number of copies sold. So why can't they provide it? If they're so relevant, if they have all the information, why can't they provide it? It makes you wonder why that is. Then he says, how games are doing in relation to one another is therefore only a mystery to the illiterate. Congratulations on a job done. So again, this is trying to speak from authority, right? Colin Moriarty is trying to speak from authority. He's trying to say because he was part of the industry or has access to the industry, whatever the case may be, that he is the authority and everybody else is only speaking from a point of alliteration. And that's it. He is talking down to Smash JT because Smash JT doesn't have the mainstream access or whatever. This is what these people do. They want you to eat the shit that they're putting out there to you. But the funny thing is, he also doesn't have the information. And if he does, he's not going to provide it. If he has an exact dollar amount, he's not going to say it. If he has an exact amount of copies sold, he's not going to tell you. The reason why is because he can't. Because if he does, he's not going to look like a good old boy. It's a mystery to him as well, but he's trying to pretend like his pompous ass is so above everybody else that he wants everybody to bow down to him. You're just illiterate, bro. Who are you talking to, my guy? Long Island Viper? No wonder, bro. Both these fucking... That's why he mentioned Alyssa Mercante. No wonder, of course. So Smash says, not sure what Alyssa Mercante has to do with anything here. Yeah, neither do I. Unless you're just padding your tweet with condensation for flavor. Circana's exact to the dollar data never seems to come with, actual numbers. Ask him about when he said Shadows was the best-selling game. Funny how it always turns into trust the process, but only when it fits a preferred narrative. Sad response, bro. To think I respected you. I don't know why you bothered. So, of course, he never responded after that because he knows he doesn't have the numbers, and he's not going to have the numbers. Now, speaking of numbers, let's go to Famitsu, and I want to show you what degradation of franchise actually looks like. Ghost of Antifa in the first week in Japan sold 120,196 copies, okay? Those are actual confirmed numbers. Those are real, okay, from Japan because, well, they're the only ones that are being transparent, so they're the only ones that we have anything to go off of. In the second week for Ghost of Antifa, you know how much it sold? 26,000 copies, okay? From 120,000 copies to 26,000 copies. So Ghost of Antifa is now at 146,000 copies in Japan by itself. If you guys want a little bit of comparison, okay, Ghost of Tsushima also sold less copies in the second week, obviously in Japan. However, it was nowhere near as little. Ghost of Tsushima, in its first week in Japan, sold about 211,000 copies. Way more than Ghost of Antifa. In the second week, this is the second week that the game was available in Japan. You can see here, Famitsu 7/20/20, 7/26/2020, right? If you look at the numbers of the second week, Ghost of Tsushima sold 53,387. Almost 55,000 more copies, right? So that means that at the same time period, Ghost of Tsushima was almost at 270,000 copies, while Ghost of Antifa is barely at 147,000 copies. So it went from 100,000 less copies to now almost 130,000 less copies. That means that this franchise is degrading fast in Japan, and people have caught on to it, and the word of mouth is nowhere near as strong as the first one was. And it's going to carry through. The gap is going to get bigger between the games. I guarantee you. The gap is going to get much, much bigger. It's probably going to get closer to 200 to 300,000 range, if not more than that, after a few more weeks, right? And again, that's not to say that the game didn't make money. That's not to say the game didn't break even. But you cannot sit up here and say that you are happy with way less sales just because you managed to break even again. You can't say that, because just like we covered with Remedy, Remedy was in the same exact situation. And now look at them. Remedy CEO has stepped down 2 weeks after now they had to issue a warning to their investors that they are now in the red. They went from being in the green in operating profit, even after Alan Wake's 2 very slow grind to breaking even, then now they released FBC Firebreak, and now they're in the red again. This will eventually happen to Sucker Punch if they continue degrading their franchise, if they continue to lose money in comparison to their first game. This will absolutely happen. And if you don't turn around quickly, and you could do all the shilling you want, and let me remind you guys, there was a lot of shilling, just like for Dragon Age the Veilguard. Do you guys remember all these posts from Dragon Age the Veilguard? Veilguard is a massive success. Cry about it, chuds. Dragon Age the Veilguard breaks records for EA and BioWare, right? Dragon Age the Veilguard launch beats Jedi Survivor to make it EA's biggest ever single-player game on Steam. EA CEO explains Dragon Age the Veilguard, massive success, right? Dragon Age the Veilguard opens as BioWare's best Steam launch with 70,000 concurrent players. I hope you guys understand that everybody that is defending Ghosts of Antifa right now were the same people that were taking these articles and trying to dunk on the chuds on Twitter and telling you that you're all grifters, you're liars, you're this, you're that, if you don't believe that this game was a massive success. It's literally the same people. I'm not even kidding. If you go to all these profiles, I guarantee if you search up Veilguard, if they didn't delete it, which chances are they probably did, if you search up Veilguard, I promise you they have tweets defending Veilguard in the same exact manner as they are with Tsushima. The only difference is they're doing it harder with Tsushima because Tsushima was made from the game that people liked more than Inquisition. Even though most people don't even remember that Inquisition sold over 10 million copies. Now, granted, most of those were on sale, but still, that's a lot of copies. So with all that being said, we have a situation where these comparison and these numbers are completely full of shit. Okay. And actually, let me take that back. They're not full of shit. They are disingenuously represented. That is the best way to explain them. These are numbers that are only meant to make one person look good and one person only, and that is Sucker Punch, or one company only. And that is Sucker Punch. That is literally it. It is not meant to inform anybody. It is not meant to provide transparency, because there is no transparency here. There's literally zero transparency here. It is not meant to do anything other than to make the shills happy, to make them feel like they're dunking on the chuds. And I'm telling you right now, it might take 6 months. It might take a year. It might take 5 years. But I have one thing to tell you. Sucker Punch will come home. It's only a matter of time. If they continue to do what they're doing, and their franchise continues to degrade, as it has been, verifiably, because all these words are very vague for a reason, which tells me that there is a degradation of franchise here. You will come home. It's only a matter of time. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, consider hitting the like button, comment. Let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one.